Walters is back as the official bar of the Nats Chat podcast for our 6th season of coverage. Located just across the street from the ballpark, Walters is the best sports bar in Navy Yard.
Runners second and third, and they'll pitch to Wood. Here's the first pitch. Swing and a line drive left field toward the gap and down and past the left fielder Lockridge to the fence. Young scores. Nunez trotting in. He will score as James Wood rounds and holds at second with another blistering line drive hit the opposite way to left center field at 111.5 miles an hour. It's a double, his 6th of the year, 2 runs batted in, that's 12 and 13, and it's the Nationals 2 and the Brewers nothing here with 1 out of the top of the 5th inning. Beater sets, kicks, delivers the pitch, swing and a dribbler in front of the plate. It's picked up by Beater. He's going to throw to first, and a curly W's in the books. Curtis Mead holds it in on a good throw by Beater, and I guess you could say they had him all the way. Beater and the Nationals hold on here in Milwaukee and have won a series, taking the first 2 in this one from the Brewers, who leave the bases loaded with a dribbler back to Beater, who throws out Joey Ortiz to end the game. Our final score, the Washington Nationals 3, the Milwaukee Brewers 1.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. My usual co-host, Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com, is off for this installment of the podcast. And the creator, owner, and executive producer of this podcast, Tim Shovers, he's enjoying his birthday weekend, although not too much because he, late night on Saturday night, took the time to edit and produce this episode. But for the purpose of the discussion of this show, it is you and me, and it is good to be with you off a Nats win, a 3-1 win at the Milwaukee Brewers on Saturday night in Game 2 of a 3-game series that the Nats already have won. They in MLB's 2026 regular season now are 6-8, 5-3 on the road versus 1-5 at home. Go figure. Coming up later in the show, a special treat, a conversation that Tim Shovers had with a good friend of this podcast, Scott Jackson, the host of the Scott Jackson Show, weekday afternoons 3 to 7 on ESPN Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. ESPN Radio 94.1 is a station on which a radio show version of this podcast airs Sunday mornings 9 to 10 during the season. So the Nats starting pitcher in this 3-1 win at the Brewers on Saturday night was Foster Griffin, and he, for a third time in 3 starts this regular season, was good. He on Saturday night tossed 5 1/3 scoreless innings, and he did so in a manner that is becoming familiar. He gave up just 1 hit, which was a single. He issued 3 walks. He recorded just 1 strikeout. He threw 80 pitches, 50 strikes versus 30 balls. Griffin, per StatCast, threw 7 different types of pitches: a cutter, a 4-seam fastball, a curveball, a sweeper, a changeup, a sinker, and a splitter. Also, he, per StatCast, had an average 4-seam fastball velocity of just 91.6 miles per hour, but he was effective. I have described the approach of Foster Griffin as quantity over quality. Look, nobody is confusing his stuff for Steven Strasburg's in 2010, okay? But Griffin has this ultra-deep repertoire of pitches. Again, he, per StatCast, threw 7 different types of pitches, and he's smart, and he locates and tunnels pitches well, and he generates soft contact. And bottom line, the results so far have been really good. Griffin in the Nats' 13-2 win at the Philadelphia Phillies on March 30th allowed 2 runs in 5 innings with 5 strikeouts versus no walks. Griffin in the Nats' 8-6 loss to the Los Angeles Dodgers at Nationals Park on Easter Sunday, April 5th, allowed 1 run in 5 innings with 6 strikeouts. His 3 opponents have been the Phillies, Dodgers, and Brewers, and yet he, over 3 starts this regular season, has an ERA of 1.76 and a whip of 1.11. And remember, this is a guy who spent the previous 3 seasons pitching in Japan, off having never made a regular season start in MLB. He was taken by the Kansas City Royals with the number 28 overall pick in the 2014 MLB first-year player draft out of the First Academy in Orlando, Florida, was released by the Toronto Blue Jays in November 2020. 22, but he resurrected his career by pitching in Japan. This is Griffin's age 30 season. The Nats this past December 22nd announced having signed Griffin to a one-year contract as a free agent. Do the Nats have a diamond in the rough here in Foster Griffin? Very encouraging what we're seeing so far. During Nats manager Blake Butera's post-game session with reporters on Saturday night, had this back and forth between Nats insider Jessica Camerato of Nationals.com and Butera.
With Foster, we talked about him being a tactician, a pitching magician. What did you like most about the way that he worked his pitch mix tonight?
Yeah, he just seems to mix speeds so well and keep hitters off balance. He's got so many different pitches, and he can command all of them, and it helps being able to do that. And yeah, just watching him pitch is a lot of fun because he's keeping guys off balance all night. When you limit a lineup like that to no hits through 5, how do you do that? Foster Griffin. That's how you do it. He's a tactician, like we talked about. It's just so impressive to sit back and just watch him do his thing, like you mentioned, against a really good lineup.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun to watch Foster Griffin pitch right now. When it comes to the Nats bullpen, I don't know that fun is the first word that comes to mind when thinking about the experience of watching the Nats bullpen these days. But the Nats relief pitching in this 3-1 win at the Brewers on Saturday night ultimately was good. Like, the overall body of work from the bullpen was good. 3 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 3 2/3 innings with 6 strikeouts versus 3 walks. But 2 of the walks were intentional. However, the final reliever used by the Nats struggled big time and nearly blew the save chance. But we begin with Brad Lord. He was good. He tossed 1 2/3 scoreless and hitless innings with 3 strikeouts, all of which came in a perfect bottom of the 7th. Lord came into the game in the bottom of the 6th with runners on 1st and 2nd, 1 out, and the Nats up 2-0, and he sandwiched 2 groundouts around a 2-out intentional walk of the Brewers' number 4 batter, Christian Yelich. So Lord acted as a fireman and then tossed that perfect bottom of the 7th with 3 strikeouts.
The 2-2. Strike 3 called. Got him looking at a backdoor slider. Brad Lord strikes out the side here in the 7th inning. Nationals bullpen doing yeoman's work here in Milwaukee.
The second reliever for the Nats in this game was Ciano Perez. He was good. He tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th, including a terrific defensive play, a 1-out full count ground out on which Bryce Terang smashed the ball 107.5 miles per hour per Statcast off Perez, who retrieved the ball behind the mound and then made a throw across his body while moving towards second base for the out at first base, where first baseman Curtis Mead made a really nice backhanded catch while stretching and falling down. A terrific defensive work by the Nats on that play. And then we got the adventures of Clayton Better. He allowed 1 run in 1 inning for the save, but there was so much more to his outing than that. Better came into the game and right away gave up a run. He gave up a leadoff opposite field home run by William Contreras to right field to cut the Nats lead to 3-1. So a rather bad start for Clayton Better. Then came a disastrous play. Better generated a 3-pitch swinging strikeout of Christian Yelich. So on the surface, you say, great job, Clayton Better, right? Well, the result was not an out. Strike 3 came on a wild pitch on which Drew Millis, who came into the game at catcher to begin the bottom of the 9th, just stood there instead of immediately going after the ball. Yelich got all the way to second base. Just a horrendous play for the Nats. Then came a big-time scare. Better inducing a flyout by Jake Bowers to the warning track in right center field for the first out. That looked like a home run. It was not a home run, was an out. Then came Better issuing a walk, a 1-out, 5-pitch walk of Brandon Lockridge. Then came a big out, Better generating a 1-out cold strikeout of Sal Frelick. But Better then issued a 2-out wild pitch, advancing the runners to second and third and prompting Blake Butera to call for an intentional walk of Garrett Mitchell to load the bases with 2 outs. Nothing, and I mean nothing, was coming easy for the Nats in this bottom of the 9th inning. So bases loaded, 2 outs, the Nats clinging to a 3-1 lead. Better induced a 2-out swinging bunt ground out by the Brewers' number 9 batter, Joey Ortiz, to end the game. And what was looking like it could be yet another bullpen implosion by the Nats, instead was a Nats victory. Clayton Better walking the tightrope, living on the edge. Use whatever cliche phrase you want, but he got the save, and ultimately, Nats pitching in this game quite good. Like, you get away from that drama in the bottom of the ninth. Nats pitchers in this game combined to allow 1 run in 9 innings with 7 strikeouts.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
And the 2-2 on the way. Swung on a line drive, base hit to right toward the line. Nunez speeding around second. It goes all the way to the fence. Nunez around third. He's coming home. Here he comes to the plate. He will score standing without a throw. On a big double for Keibert Ruiz into the right field corner. He drives in his 6th run of the year with his 2nd double. A huge 2-out hit to give the Nationals bullpen another run to work with. Here in the top of the 9th inning, it's the Nationals 3 and the Brewers nothing.
Well, the Nats in this 3-1 win at the Brewers on Saturday night had an odd game offensively. The Nats totaled 8 hits, which were 3 doubles and 5 singles, and the Nats worked 5 walks, but the Nats scored just 3 runs. Why? Well, the Nats went just 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position, and there were quite a few instances of the Nats making an out on the base paths, including 3 instances of a Nats player getting picked off as the Nats officially went 0 for 3 on stolen bases. But before that stuff, James Wood remains hot, and we do not want to lose sight of that. Wood, as the Nats starting DH and number 1 batter, went 1 for 3 with a 2-run double, a walk, and a hit by pitch. Wood in the Nats 2-run 5th had a went out first pitch opposite field 2-run double to the left center field gap for a 2-0 Nats lead. The double had a game best exit velocity of 111.5 miles per hour per Statcast, and yet another instance of James Wood scorching a baseball. Also, Wood in the top of the 3rd drew a 2-out hit by pitch despite having been down in the count at 1.02. So James Wood for this regular season now has an OPS of 953. The number 1 development with the Nats in recent days by far has been James Wood going from slumping to surging. This is quite the 180 by James Wood. He was looking lost at the plate, and he now seemingly cannot make it out, and he now is pounding baseballs routinely. The Statcast exit velocities have been out of this world here over these last few games. Also, a big hit for Keibert Ruiz, and man, did he need that. He is the Nats starting catcher, and number 9 batter went 1 for 3 with an RBI double and a walk. Ruiz in the Nats 1-run 9th, a 2-out RBI double to right field for a 3-0 Nats lead, despite having been down in the count at 1.12. Keibert Ruiz is off to a woeful start. He, for this regular season, has an OPS of just 599, including an on-base percentage of just 214. And those numbers include what he did on Saturday night. But what he did on Saturday night was good. So good for him. But yeah, the outs on the base paths, they drove you crazy. And they often came off the Nats doing good things. C.J. Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop, and number 6 batter went 1 for 4 with a single, but he got picked off. Abrams in the top of the 4th had a 2-out opposite field single to left field despite having been down in the count at 1.12, but he then got picked off and tagged out in an attempted steal of second base. Nasim Nunez, wild game for him. He is the Nats starting second baseman, and number 8 batter went 2 for 3 with a double, a single, and a walk, but he made 2 outs on the base path. So we in this game saw both the best and the worst of Nasim Nunez offensively. Nunez, in the top of the third, put down a leadoff first pitch bunt to the right side of the infield, resulting in a throwing error by Brewers first baseman Gary Sanchez, as the speed of Nunez wreaked havoc with the Brewers, who in this game committed 3 errors. But Nunez got thrown out in trying to advance to second base, although in fairness to him, both he and the ball collided with first base umpire Carlos Torres, resulting in a confluence of circumstances that led to Nunez being thrown out. So I'm not that mad at Nunez getting thrown out in that spot, but he did get thrown out in attempting to advance to second base. Nunez, in the Nats' 2-run fifth, had an opposite field double to right field on an 0-2 pitch to conclude a 7-pitch plate appearance in which he fouled off 4 consecutive pitches, falling behind 0-2. Excellent plate appearance by Nasim Nunez. Nunez, in the top of the 7th, had a one-out infield single to the right side of the infield despite having been down in the count at 1.02. And the slow-moving grounder, combined with the speed of Nunez, resulted in a throwing error by Brewers second baseman Bryce Terang, advancing Nunez to second base. So a tremendous play by Nunez, but he got picked off and tagged out in an attempted steal of third base. And Nunez, in the Nats' 1-run ninth, drew a 2-out walk. So there was so much to process in this game with the offense of Nasim Nunez. Like I said, we saw both the best and worst of Nunez offensively. Dalen Lyle, he is the Nats starting left fielder and number 4 batter, went 1 for 4 with a single, but he got thrown out in an attempted steal of second base. Lyle, in the top of the 6th, had a leadoff first pitch single into right center field. The single had an exit velocity of 104.7 miles per hour per StatCast, but he then got thrown out in an attempted steal of second base. Jacob Young, he is the Nats starting center fielder and number 7 batter, went 2 for 4 with 2 singles, but he got picked off. Young, his outs kept coming on the base pass. It was ridiculous. Young, in the Nats' 2-run fifth, had a leadoff opposite field single to right field. Young, in the Nats' 1-run ninth, had a 1-out single into left field despite having been down in the count at 1.02, but he then got picked off at first base for the second out. The Nats should have scored more than 3 runs in this game. The outs on the base pass drove you crazy. But bigger picture, A, James Wood is on fire. B, C.J. Abrams is doing very well. And C, the Nats offense overall, big-time bright spot so far in this regular season. I certainly don't want to lose sight of that. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. And we have a website that we invite you to check out, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. And speaking of ESPN Radio 94.1, Tim Shovers, he had a chance to speak with a good friend of this podcast, Scott Jackson, the host of the Scott Jackson Show, weekday afternoons 3 to 7 on ESPN Radio 94.1. I have known Scott since 2000. We worked together at WTEM, what now is the Team 980 in the Washington, D.C. area for decades, in fact. And Scott, Tim, and myself were together at WTEM for years. Take it away, Tim.
Lord sets. And Lord delivers. Swinging a ground ball right side. Nunez has it to his right. He'll make the throw on to first, and the inning is over. Nice work by Brad Lord. He throws 2 pitches to get 2 ground balls to Nunez. And around the intentional walk, the Brewers leave the bases loaded. Heck of a relief outing there for Brad Lord.
Honored to be joined by Scott Jackson here on Nats Chat. If you are a veteran sports fan in the DMV, you have heard this man's voice a lot. Scott and I worked together many moons ago at ESPN 980 in DC, with the studios located right in the heart of Rockville Pike. You can hear Scott from 3 to 7 Monday through Friday on Priority Lexus Sports Radio 94.1 in Virginia Beach. That station also airs Nats Chat every Sunday morning from 9 to 10 during the season. Scott, how are you?
Excellent, Tim. Great to be on Nats Chat. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, thrilled to have you on, making your debut here with us. Back in our 980 days, I produced Scott's show with B. Mitch and Doc Walker. He would have me text Mark to book him on the show to talk about the Nats And we would plan the show right next to Al's desk in the bullpen. So it's all full circle here. Scott, for those in the area, in the DMV, who have a blind spot for Virginia Beach, what's the sports hierarchy in the area? How important are DC sports?
Well, the Commanders are important here. The Nationals, they're certainly here. Orioles are probably ahead of them, I would say, because of the Tides, obviously the affiliation with the Orioles. But there are actually quite a few Nats fans. Unfortunately, we haven't had a whole lot to talk about since this show started here 3 years ago when I came down here. In terms of the Nets, winning ball games. So we've talked a lot of off-season stuff, I feel like, but as the season goes on, you know how that goes. So I would say the Orioles are still one. There's still a lot of Mets fans down here too, because of the Tides as well, and the affiliation years ago with the Tides. When I was in college, actually down here, it was a Mets affiliate at that point. But because it's Navy, the largest Navy base we have, we get everything. I mean, it's, I could talk Dodgers and get a lot of people to react, Yankees. So, the bigger market type of teams. But yeah, I would say in terms of, the local teams, the Orioles, the Nats are probably the 1 and 2. And, the Commanders also had been asleep for a long time until prior to 2 years ago, as you know, Tim. It was cool to come back here and have that year, and to see the fans kind of come out and support it. So, you get a lot of Cowboy fans here too. Unfortunately, they're everywhere, as you know, and every NFL team you can imagine is part of it down here, because again, back to the fact that we have the world's largest Navy base, so we have so many different fans from all over.
Yeah, it's an unusual sports market indeed, and you captured it well there. Ryan Zimmerman is a Virginia Beach native. He went to Kellam High School. How large does he loom there? Do people take a lot of local pride in Zimmerman?
Absolutely. He's still a big part of, we talk about players from down here. Michael Kadire is from this area, still lives here. Michael, I've had him on the show many times. Great guy. Daniel Hudson as well, who was, of course, not only a local high school player here, but it was an Old Dominion Monarch as well, and on that Nationals World Series team, of course, recorded the last out in the World Series. So, yeah, I mean, you name it, man. There's a lot, Upton brothers. I mean, there's a lot of great players. And really what I'd say, back to bigger picture question about your first question, they take a lot of pride down here in the great talent from this area. People that came up in this area, from, you name it, from Lawrence Taylor to obviously Allen Iverson to Michael Vick, Bruce Smith, obviously. I mean, just tons of Hall of Famers, the great late Kenny Easley. There's just so many great players over time. It's still happening here too, which is really cool. And getting to meet these guys as well over time. So that's also just, a big part of it down here. It's just been a bunch of great players in all different sports that have come through here.
Listeners know your hoops and your football ice cold, but those who know that you really know your Nationals as well too. What's your favorite 2019 memory?
Well, the 2019 team was just wild, because I kind of feel like at that point as a Nats fan, I was a little bit like, oh God, here we go again, right? Like, here comes the playoffs. I don't know. Just the way, and this is so weird, what a bulldog Steven Strasburg was, right? And then of course, that was it, right? I mean, after that, he just couldn't. But it was so unexpected. Here's the guy they were so careful with throughout times. He had so many injuries, but then he was such a beast in the playoffs. That was great. Hudson getting the last out, being an ODU guy. Of course, he came in that season in the trade. I was so fired up about that. Just so many fun things. And then it was just like the clutch hitting, and the fact that, of course, all of it happened the year after they told, that Bryce Harper, went to the Phillies was the best part of it. I think too, because everybody thought, oh God, franchise is done now because you lose this, generational talent kind of guy. But there was just so many great things about watching that team, and just the different people that came through. Of course, Rendon too was so great in that series. And then, after that, it was like that offseason, remember the choices, Tim, Rendon or Strasburg. And obviously, both careers went the wrong way afterwards due to injury, unfortunately. And the Nats sided with pitching. And, Steven obviously was never the same. And, Rendon's obviously never the same either with his career either.
Dueling 7-year, $245 million disaster contracts.
Yeah, right.
Right there. Let's get you a Wizards and a Commanders question. Wizards, is there any source of optimism? I mean, give us something. Well, they get one of the top 2 picks in the lottery. The kid DeBonsta from BYU, at the beginning of the year, I didn't watch a ton of BYU, but as the year went on, I did, and I really like him and his upside potential.
But I like Cam Boozer a lot. I know he's not as sexy because he's not a high leaper necessarily and a freak athlete, but he's a really hard-nosed player, smart player. I think you couldn't go wrong with either one of those guys if that's the route you go. Caleb Wilson's interesting. We didn't get to see enough of him, unfortunately, the kid from North Carolina, who's about 6'10" kid, but obviously can shoot and can handle it. It was unfortunate he got hurt late in the year. I'm scared to death of Peterson, just based off of all this. Like, was he load managing himself? I don't know what was going on throughout the year. You'd really have to do some good research on that if you're the Wizards front office to know if that's if that's a guy who's really ready to come to the NBA and handle it all. But I don't know. I'm not, to be honest with you, I didn't love the Trae Young thing. I don't love the Anthony Davis thing. I don't think either of them calculates into winning long term. So I don't know. I think it's been kind of a weird season for what they've done. And the thing I always go back to people, Tim, is say, these guys have played in like simulated basically summer league games for how many seasons in a row now, these young kids. I mean, none of these games mean anything. You're playing well, they pull you out. I mean, they goof around with the lineups. I mean, I don't know what to take from it. And we don't even know if this guy, can coach because he's never had to. And like, there's been no like real high leverage competitive games for these guys for so long now. It's just they've gotten used to like, oh yeah, go out and lose. And we'll talk about, we're just thinking about, next year or the year after, this long-term plan, which again is unfortunate. This is the way the NBA works, but it is the best way to do it. And it is a different way than the Wizards had done it in years past. So I'm hopeful it will work when it's all said and done. But right now it's really hard to, I kind of don't want to listen to all the noise about how brilliant they are by doing it. I want to actually see some success before I'm going to buy into whether or not this ended up being a great plan or not.
You and I both, because I have my skepticism as well. Final question for you here. Jaden Daniels, what do you tell your listeners? How should they feel about him coming into 2026?
Well, I think they still believe in him. I mean, look, as bad as last year went and, not having him on the field was tough. I really wanted him to play later in the year. They ended up shutting him down. In the end, you know what? You can't be mad at them siding on the caution, being cautious with a valuable piece. I just think about, what we just saw in this year's playoffs. And yeah, it was nice. Drake May, year 2, he's in a Super Bowl, but Drake May was not the reason the Patriots made it to the Super Bowl. Let's not act like he carried them there with his play in the postseason. Just going back, thinking about the way Jaden Daniels literally carried the Commanders to the NFC Championship 2 years before. I actually came out of the season feeling even better about the situation with him. As long as they continue to add around him, I'm excited to see what they could do with the 7th pick in the draft to potentially help there. I like what they've done in the free agency so far. And look, their 2 decisions at coordinators were gutsy, needless to say. I mean, 2 virtual unknowns. I mean, you can tell me all the brilliant things about David Blau. That's super. I hope he is a success, but we just don't know until we know. And same thing with Durante Jones. So I give Dan Quinn a lot of credit. He's not afraid. I mean, he went young here. And guys that he thinks are ready for these jobs, and everybody at some point in life had to get an opportunity, and these guys have 2 huge opportunities, and it's a very important season for them, I think, to win back the confidence, if you will, of the fan base after the way things fell apart last year.
Good way to put it, because it's like you're not really sure what to think. So much success year 1, obviously a far different year 2. So
100%.
Oh, Scott, thank you so much for joining us. Let me know next time you're in town. Got to catch a hoops game together. We're long overdue for that.
Absolutely.
And Scott Jackson Show, 3 to 7, Monday through Friday. Priority Lexus Sports Radio 94.1. Listen online at ESPNRadio941.com. Thanks so much, Scott.
Thank you, Tim. Great catching up, man.
Here's the wind of the pitch. Swing and a drive hit well. Deep center field. Way back goes Springer to the warning track. Looking up, and it is gone. Goodbye. Bang. Zoom goes the Z-Man to the deepest part of Minute Maid Park. Just to the left of the batter's eye in center field. Ryan Zimmerman with his 2nd home run of the postseason cuts the Astros lead in half. It's Houston 2 and Washington 1 on a postseason World Series home run for Ryan Zimmerman.
Some days you want a little extra oomph to your usual look. Whether that's lashes for days with the viral Liquid Lash Extensions mascara, or awakening your eyes with a lasting lift and soft color with the Brilliant Eye Brightener, Thrive Causemetics is your go-to when you want to amplify your everyday look. Whether you want a simple, just got to get out of the door routine, or full glam, you'll always look and feel like the best version of yourself with Thrive Causemetics. Plus, every product is 100% vegan, cruelty-free, and made with clean, skin-loving ingredients that work with your skin, not against it. And for every product purchased, Thrive Causemetics donates to help communities thrive. So every time you use your favorite Thrive Causemetics product, you're helping communities you care about too. Amplify your everyday. Go to thrivecosmetics.com/shine26 for an exclusive offer of 20% off your first order. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/shine26.